FX, welcome back to My Kitten Reads. I'm Eleanor and this is my June wrap-up. In June this year I managed to read 10 things. Mostly short things, all electronic things, but I did read 10 things. And I also actually started a few longer things, but got distracted from each of them. But the reason I read 10 things and 10 short things, mostly, is because it's Hugo time again. The packet was a little later coming out this year. It didn't come out until June, I don't think. In fact, it's actually, the original due date for votes was the 15th of this month, which is in a few days. But because they've only just opened voting, I think due to technical issues, they've extended that voting deadline until the 22nd. So I've still got some time. I have now read the short story category and the novelette category. I need to work on the novella category. But yeah, I read 10 things. Yay! And 10 mostly good things, I think. I was quite pleased with some of what I read this year. Anyway, so what did I read? So I started the month with And Now His Lordship is Laughing by Shiv Ramdas, which is a short story. I really liked this. Some of the description, particularly at the start, I thought was a little overdone. But it was a story that was about colonialism in India, in, I think, if my memory serves me correctly, the Bengali region. And the fact it was about, the way resources can be stripped. It was about an old woman who made these dolls out of jute. And they were laughing dolls. She had some sort of magic ability that when she made a doll for a specific person, she could make it laugh for them. And she kept refusing to make a doll for the governor's wife. And as the story goes on, they strip so many resources out of this area for a war effort elsewhere for the colonials that basically everybody dies. And you get to the point in the book where the old woman is starving to death. She's already lost everyone she loves. Everyone in her village either has starved or has killed themselves to stop themselves from starving. So she agrees to make this doll. But the way she does it, it's all about resistance and it's all about rebellion and revenge. She insists on going to present the doll to the governor herself. And in a very creepy ending, the way she's done it up is that when it laughs, it makes everybody in the room, in the castle, in the palace laugh until they die. So that's how she takes her revenge. So I quite enjoyed that. Most of these stories are quite dark. Most of them are about resistance and rebellion in the short story category this year. The second thing I read was As the Last I May Know by S.L. Huang. And that was about weapons of mass destruction and the price that might need to be paid in order to use them. So it was... The way it was set up is that each time there's a new leader, a child is chosen and the codes are basically implanted within that child. Therefore, in order to get the codes, the leader has to murder the child. And that's supposed to prevent the weapons being used. But the story is very much about how do you weigh up the life of one against possibly the life of many, the life of an entire country. What is the price that a person might be willing to pay? And when is, and whose decision should it be? So that was a very confronting, but a very thoughtful and thought-provoking story, which I also quite liked. Then I read Blood is Another Word for Hunger by Rivers Solomon, which is a bit of a meditation on slavery, in which a slave discovers that her male owner, has been killed elsewhere. Therefore, she rises up and murders the women in the family and takes over the property and ends up birthing formerly dead people through blood, through murder, through killing people. She kills someone and then later on gives birth to someone who had previously died. And so it's quite a gruesome story. I didn't enjoy it as much as the other two that I've mentioned, but it's still about resistance, about despair, about rebirth, and slavery. Yeah, so it was interesting, but probably a bit too gruesome for my particular tastes. Then I had a bit of a break and read a new Jann Rowland Pride and Prejudice variation called Mrs. Bennet's Favourite Daughter, in which Elizabeth is Mrs. Bennet's favourite daughter, in which Colonel Fitzwilliam actually ends up taking over the regiment of militia in Meryton, and therefore being in control of Wickham and trying to keep him under control. So it was another easy, I read so many Jann Rowland variations. So yeah, that was a bit of a break, a bit of a relief from all the darkness. I need a little bit of that at times. Then I went back to the short story category and read Do Not Look Back, My Lion by Alix E. Harrow, which was about a matriarchal warrior society and a disabled member of that society who was married to a hero in a lesbian relationship, and was not willing to lose yet another child to this warrior culture, and the lengths that she would go to try and protect her child, even if it wasn't her biological child, and the strain on the relationship between this warrior hero and this more peaceful spouse, when again almost about prices, how much is too much to pay. So that was fun. It was interesting, and I think it was enjoyable to read, but not really fun. Then I read the final short story was 10 excerpts from an annotated bibliography of the Cannibal Women of Ratnabor Island by Nibedita Sen. And so that was, it was about Hannibal Women, but it was also about, letting people tell their own stories. And also about what can happen when you take someone out of a very closed environment and put them in a new culture, and the ways that it can go wrong. But it was again about powerful women. Then I started the novelette category and read the Archronogy of Love, which was about, it was a story about grief and about closure and about letting go. It was science fiction because it was this expedition to discover what happened to the colony on Mars that disappeared, and the protagonist was a woman whose partner had been in that colony, and so she wanted to know what happened to her partner. And they used there's this device where things are always recorded, and so you can go into this device and revisit the past. But when you are visiting, even though you're not interacting with it, you are still changing the information because you're now inserting yourself into the record. But it was interesting. It was quite interesting. Quite interesting concept, and it was a really good look at grief and closure, and moving on. So that was nice. Then I read Emergency Skin, which is another novelette by N.K. Jemisin. I've had a weird relationship with N.K. Jemisin. Some of her short fiction I've liked, some of her short fiction I haven't really clicked with. This one I liked. So this one was it was the perspective of this AI who was in this person's head, and it was like a soldier or something like that, and the society he came from was basically, you find out along the way, all men. They left Earth a long time ago because the environment was going shit. They were the sort of upper 1,000 or upper 3,000 or whatever, Men, wealthy, hidebound, conservative, and so they went to this other planet, and this where skin is actually something you only get when you earn it, because you need certain cultures or something or other to create the skin. And so this person has been sent back to Earth to get the cultures that they need. And when he's there, he discovers that when the upper 3,000 left, what was left were people that actually were innovative, weren't hidebound and traditionalist, were diverse and had diverse thought. And so they saved the planet. And so the planet now is actually in really, really good shape. And this has been hidden by the leaders of the colony because they don't want to admit that they left and the planet got better. And so this person ends up deciding that he's going to go back and try and start a rebellion, and get the truth out. So that was fun. I really, really enjoyed that N.K. Jemisin story. Then I finished my audiobook of Emma by Jane Austen, which of course was a reread. Again, I ended up speeding up to the end of it because it was comfort reading. I'd started reading it while I was going running, and even though I didn't really do a lot of running in June because of various reasons, I still listened to the end of the audiobook because it was comfort reading. It's something I'm very familiar with, something I love very much. Always love Emma. So, that was Emma. And then I finished up the month by reading another novelette. I always get confused between novelettes and novellas. Novelettes are the shorter ones. Called For He Can Creep by Siobhan Carroll. And that was very amusing. I was very amused by that story because essentially it's what it boils down to. It's a cat fighting Satan. So the protagonist is a cat called Thomas. I think it's Thomas. No, not Thomas. Jeffrey, I think. Cat called Jeffrey. Who is the head cat of this madhouse. And he's rather fond of this poet, but the poet Satan is trying to tempt the poet to write the ultimate sin in poetry that will allow Satan to destroy the world. And the cat gets tempted himself by a massive meal, including Turkish delight, which made me laugh because that's very Narnian reference. And then has to deal with the fact that the poet has also been forced to make this deal to write this poem. And so he recruits some of his cat friends to distract Satan when he comes to collect the poem after the poem's been written. And Jeffrey beats Satan, not through physical force, because that failed once, but he ate the poem. So the poem got written, but he ate the piece of paper it was written on. And was very smug about it, like cats are. So that was the last novelette that I read during June, and I really enjoyed. So I've still got a lot of work to do this month. I'm a bit behind schedule. I've got novellas to read. The fact that I haven't been able to get back to the gym as much as I want to has not helped. Hopefully I can get back a few times this week. But yes, I need to start reading the novellas so that I can try and vote in the novella category as well for the Hugo Awards. Like I said, I started a few novels last month that I need to finish. I have also been reading a lot of Maya Angelou poetry, and I'm getting close to finishing that collection. So I need to get myself a wriggle on for my reading in July, but June was a pretty good reading month. So and I was quite impressed by the short story and novelette categories. In the last few years, I've not really clicked with a lot of the shorter fiction. Some of the novellas, yes, but not so much the novelettes and short stories. But I quite enjoyed them this time round, so I'm going to have to do some thinking about which way I'm going to vote. Yeah. So that is my June wrap up. Let me know if you've read any of those stories, if you liked them, if you disliked them, if you want to know more about them or want to know where you can find them when it comes to short stories. Ask me in the comments. Always happy to talk books and short stories and stuff. And I will see you all again really soon. Bye.